Sure.
So moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Sorry, who seconded it?
I got a second.
Beth.
Beth.
Thank you.
Okay. You can sit up here if you want. That'd be
I
better.
thought Aaron was sitting there.
All right. Approval of the previous month's minutes. Does everybody got a copy? I assume. Does anybody have corrections or additions to the minutes? Going once. All right. If nobody has any changes to the minutes, let's have a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve.
Arlene moves and Sheila seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Public, is there any public here to be heard? All right. In the interest of our guests, we'll skip the old business right now, and we'll go to the senior transportation needs. Wonder if you folks would introduce yourselves again and
You bet.
tell us about your office and so forth.
Absolutely. So, my name is Phil Greenwald. I'm the transportation planning manager with the city, so I do the long-term and long-range planning for the city. We also work a lot with transit. And so I'm joined by Angel Bond, who's in the back, and she works with Boulder County, and she'll introduce herself as well. And I think really most of the comments and the questions that you had really related to what Angel is doing currently in her programming. So she's got a lot of great information for you. I'm going to present real quickly up front, and sorry, Councilmember Martin, that you'll get to see this a couple of times, but we'll talk a little bit about microtransit, what that is and what that means for the senior population, and the whole population for the city. So it's not relegated to just one population at all. It's really about serving the entire city. So with that, I'm going to go through a quick presentation. If you guys have any questions, let me know. We can stop anytime, but I really want to turn it over to Angel and get her to introduce herself to you as far as from Boulder County after this is done, and we'll really talk about the other needs you have and I brought up what Ronnie sent us. So people always ask, what is microtransit? It's a great question because it's kind of a silly term almost. I mean, people have small little tiny buses that zip around town. It is actually. It's a system of 4 to 6 vans. They can hold 6 passengers each. You can use an app on your telephone, on your smartphone, or you can call and get the service. And the idea is that within about 30 minutes from making the request for your ride, this Uber Lyft type system, but it's a more coordinated and more unified than that, will actually be able to come and pick you up kind of near your location where you're trying to get the transit service, like within a block of your location, and then take you within 30 minutes to get you to your destination. So we're pretty excited about that idea. And this has been tried and true, tried in many different cities around the United States, and actually Lone Tree is an example. I'll talk about that later too. But it has been, it is something, it's not just us trying something brand new that hasn't been tried. It is something that's out there, yes ma'am.
So it's not door to door?
It can be, but it typically is not. It's like intersection to door, or intersection to near location.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is some walk involved if necessary, but these vans do also accommodate ADA services. So they are ADA accessible.
Okay.
So if,
How far would they have to walk?
well, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's based on your mobility and what you can do. But what they're trying to do is get people to kind of get grouped in one location so they can do a group pickup or pick up people in generally the same location. So you don't have an empty or one person in the van only. You have a number of people using that service. So it is more like transit. And that's the transit piece of this, but it's not just individual. It's trying to group rides. And you may have to stop along your route and pick other people up. So it's not just you going from where you get picked up directly to where you're going. It could be you get picked up, you pick up some other folks, and then you drop off some other folks, but within 30 minutes, you should be able to get to your destination. So a little bit of sharing that has to happen here.
Could we get a copy of your presentation?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. Good. So why microtransit? Why microtransit? Sorry, these slides didn't come across as well on this little guide than on the computer slide I'm using, but it really is a dynamic system. It really can adapt to different conditions. So there's a lot of different things that it can do. It can, based on demand, they can add shuttles. They can remove shuttles if the demand is low. They can move them to other places. We can share with other cities or other towns. So it's pretty dynamic, and we've been trying to figure out how to share some of these resources so that we're not taking on the entire lift of this system. It's very similar to our bus shelter program, where we contract out to a vendor, a private party vendor, and they basically take care of the system. We pay them to do that. It's all what they call turnkey, so the vendor does all the work. We sit back and we administer that work, and we make sure that they get paid, and if there's any complaints, we certainly take those and pass them on to the vendor. But it's really the city kind of stepping back and administering the program, having that kind of control, but more control than RTD has from their central location, I think, in Denver. That's my opinion. And so we would have more control over it, but we would be putting it over to a third-party vendor. So we control that level and location of services. Obviously, we have to pay people, so we pay for that level of service, but you can see kind of how it goes, and if it's going well, we can talk about increasing the services and how we can get better service to folks, or if it's a little too much coverage and a little too much supply and not enough demand, then we can reduce it too and reduce our costs. And again, there's these existing microtransit models serve cities very similar to Longmont that don't have major universities that are smaller in size, less than 500,000 people, typically around 200,000 people. And so we've seen that this has been very successful. So what are we doing right now?
This may be a question that you're going to answer, but what do these vehicles look like? What do they say on them?
Well, they can say whatever we like. I mean, we can build it however.
Oh, this does not exist.
Not in Longmont.
Thank you.
Yes.
That's what I needed to know.
Well, it does exist in Longmont. I'll just explain how it exists in Longmont. What we do is we have these current transit services, and RTD does a lot of the service. Again, based downtown Denver. We pay them sales tax. We also buy up local service. They provide the fixed routes that are the locals and the regionals. The locals are currently free. Access a ride is something they have to provide in tandem with or in coordination with the fixed ride, because it's a requirement that they provide ADA accessible service within a certain distance, and that just becomes the whole city at this point. So they provide that access a ride, but you have to qualify for that service, and I think a lot of people know that it's kind of a tough one to have to qualify for, because you do have to go down to, I think it used to be Wheat Ridge. I think it still is.
I think it's like Littleton.
Is it Littleton now? Yeah. Even further away? I don't know.
Not sure.
Angel, if you know where.
It's pretty much 3/4 of a mile from all of RTD services.
But where do you have to qualify? Where do you go to?
Oh, now you have to go to Denver. I can talk a little bit about that.
Okay, we'll talk more about that.
That's kind of contradictory, isn't it? I mean, if you're disabled, you
Right.
have to go to Denver.
Yeah.
They'll come and pick you up.
They'll pick you up,
They'll
yeah.
drop you off, but you have to go down to that office to talk to the people and get called.
I can talk about that a little bit more in my portion.
Also, RTD provides flex ride service, which is very similar to this, what we're talking about. But they provide like 1 to 2 vehicles typically in Longmont. They say 2. They also say that they only provide 1 vehicle in a day. So that's a 1 or 2 vehicles trying to make all these trips. So they don't have that responsiveness that we're looking for.
What's the difference between flex ride and access ride?
Flex
Is
ride is
Flex
open to
Ride-
anybody. I could go out there right now and I could call or get on my phone and hail a flex ride service. But it would always say you've got to wait 4 hours
Oh, yeah.
for that service. But I could get service. And access a ride is something where I'd have to qualify for it, and I'd probably have to set up that ride. Angel will talk more about that piece of it. But
Is the senior center involved in this? I mean, do you have staff coordinating any of this, or is this directly between?
Consumer, isn't it?
Well, we work with the senior center as part of the city, as a
Sure.
city team. So
Sure.
we would work with Ronnie and others to figure out how to make this best work. So as we're talking through the microtransit system, we can do this. But we try to provide the resources that are out there today. And Angel does a great job too of getting those resources to the senior center and to the youth centers
Yeah.
and the schools to
I
make sure.
was just wondering if there's a focal point in the senior center.
But we don't organize it.
We give out the information.
Okay.
But it could be used as a place where people could catch the ride, so
Absolutely.
it could be a site.
And it's also a destination, so it'll be a great destination for a number of folks trying to get there. So.
Right.
Then there's VIA, which we provide a yearly payment to. They do paratransit only service, so they only provide service for older adults and people with disabilities. So that's and Angel will talk more about that as well. And then we also have Transport, which is a service from Fort Collins. We give them a yearly payment as well to pay for a portion of their services that they provide to Longmont. They provide that regional flex bus, and it goes basically, we can only catch it from Longmont to Fort Collins and back, but it also provides service to Boulder. And with them being free, I think some people are taking advantage of that service without, they're not supposed to, but the Bolt is really supposed to provide that service, and that's over here in the regionals. So those are kind of those things, and then what we're trying to do with microtransit is really consolidate what's happening with the Flex Ride and really basically beef it up, make it better. And we topped RTD, and we're working with a program right now, we'll talk more about this too, that we're working in partnership to get some dollars from RTD and saying, hey, if we take some of this stuff over for you, we could both benefit by you saving money and giving us still some of the money that you would have spent on the program and put it into our new microtransit service. So we're trying to do that and really go from call-in rides with 1 or 2 vehicles to a broader call-in ride with more like 4 to 6 vehicles.
So Phil, you and I have been in discussions with someone who, a pretty profoundly disabled older adult who had been using VIA because that's what Medicaid paid for, and was being turned away or being kept on the phone for an hour and things like that. And she switched over to Flex Ride and has had no problems since.
I think she was here with Accessoride and Flex Ride.
I don't know, because I don't see how she would ever have gotten down to Denver to sign up for Accessoride. So
okay.
I think
Okay.
and she insists she was using VIA.
Okay.
So I think it was from VIA, because she certainly qualifies for that as well.
Yeah.
But I still am interested in knowing what effective service levels we're getting out of those. And and specifically on the microtransit plan, whether there will be some sort of qualification where people who are disabled enough don't have to make it to a block away.
Right.
Can be picked up at the door.
Yeah. And that's something we can work into our contract with whatever microtransit company.
So the people using these services have to call each of the individual services to get things scheduled and to find out more information? I mean, what makes it easy for somebody that has some kind of cognitive issues to use these services?
Right, I mean, what we're trying to do is work with a third-party provider that would allow for people with just the issues that you're talking about to be able to access the system. So we don't want it to just be a phone app or call on a phone, but we need it to be broader. We need to make sure it's also equitable.
That doesn't exist right now? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think it does to some extent, but probably not to the level, and maybe Angel could talk more about that as well, but what we're really trying to do is work with the microtransit to be more flexible, more accessible, so anybody can use it.
So Phil, I think you didn't maybe make the context clear. This slide is what we have now, which is a collection of services that do overlap in terms of who they service and what the different, Transport doesn't overlap with anything.
Right, you wouldn't call them, but you would call Accessoride, FlexRide, and VIA. Each one of those you'd have to call kind of separately because they're all separate systems. In my understanding.
And nobody has to call the fixed routes or Transport, they
Right,
just
they're all
are on the
fixed, they're
scheduled
all fixed
buses.
routes.
So, you may have said this and I missed it. This thing that you're proposing is strictly Longmont. So if I wanted to go
somewhere other than Longmont, it would not apply.
They would take you to a service that would get you on a system that would get you out of Longmont.
Okay.
It's confusing.
It's very confusing, and what we're
I
trying to
can
do.
imagine how confusing it is for the consumer.
And it's not available now.
Not yet.
The new
The new
microtransit system is
microtransit
a
isn't
proposal.
available yet.
Because
So
all we
this
have-
is
all we have-
working through.
all we have
This is
what we have.
confusing
Yeah,
to the
okay.
consumer.
I see what
My
you
son
mean.
uses it.
Yeah.
So what's the next thing you're gonna do?
So I'll just tell you that we've applied for this partnership program. I talked a little bit about it. It's for new and expanded services. $600,000 is the max we can ask for, and this is the first year of the program. So we're trying to work with RTD to really get this thing off the ground for Longmont.
So I have a question, because I remember seeing this when you presented to the council. The 600,000 is total for the entire thing. I mean, we wouldn't get that because other places could apply for that as well.
Well,
Is that correct?
it's $2 million for the entire district.
Okay.
The RTD, the Regional Transportation District, which is 7 counties. So
The 600,000 is Boulder County.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and we are competing with some other folks in Boulder County.
I'm sorry, I missed that. 600 for the whole project of which we are a part?
Well, just Boulder County will get
Okay.
up to $600,000.
Okay.
That's the most we can get
Okay,
possible. But
Anybody's applying for it, people are applying.
a number of folks are applying for it. Yeah, we're in competition with a few folks, but we talked about it. We're all good. The staff all kind of gets along in Boulder County, so we've been working it out to figure out, where we can move the shells, and get the biggest bang for the buck. And right now, I'll be honest with you, Longmont's proposal is scoring one of the highest in the region. So
Great.
they really like the dollars that we're bringing to, the matching dollars that we're bringing to. Hopefully we'll keep those in the budget and we'll see what happens at about noon today. So those are the things that are going on right now, kind of behind the scenes. I just want to let you know too, this is kind of hard to read, but RTD is changing their fare structure for next year, which is wonderful news because we've been really working to provide the ride-free bus system in Longmont, ride-free Longmont, for the locals, and we pay for that, right? It's not free, really. It's free to the consumer, but it costs us something. What we do is we buy up that service, and it is provided free to the public. But if we can eliminate some of that, and really the reason why we did that with Boulder County's, in partnership with Boulder County, was to prove to RTD that fares were an impediment to ridership in Longmont, and we proved it a couple times over. So we feel good about that. But just to let you know that the fares are changing. So the current fares are $3 for a local. That goes to $150 if you can apply, or if you can get the discount fare, which anybody over 65 can do. There's also a low income fare that's also available, and then there's some other discounts or ways to get the discount fare. But basically $3 and then half of that for the discount. $5.25 to get to the regional, like if you wanted to go to Boulder. Everything's a regional out of town. So every bus out of town is a regional except for the flex bus going to Fort Collins. That's not RTD. But buses to Denver, buses to Boulder would count as that $5.25 or $2.60 if you get the discount. And then $10.50 or $5.25 to get to the airport. So under RTD's proposal, it's kind of this next four. The youth under 19 would be free for 23 and 24. So they're going to try that out and see how that works. That'll start with the school year, so that's great. So we'll start in late August here. We'll start seeing those free fares. And we already, the local buses are already free, so I'm not sure. We're trying to figure out how this is going to affect students maybe coming from outside, from Boulder or Denver, but that'll be kind of a push, I think. The reduction in fares also are for anybody else riding would be $2.75 for a typical local bus, but that also counts for regionals now. So under the new system, it would be locals and regionals would all be one price.
Even to Denver?
Yes. Yeah. So and then $5.50 would get you an all-day pass. $10 gets you to the airport, and you could get an $88 per month pass, and that would cover all the services, including the airport service. So if anybody bought that $88 pass, you could get anywhere in the RTD system for that price per month. Low income, 65, people 65 and over, people with disabilities, it would be $1.35 for that same trip anywhere in the system, or $2.70 for an all-day pass, and then $27 a month would include your airport. So pretty darn good deal. So, yeah, so RTD has really come to the table, really seen or really listened to folks about this, because you talked about the accessibility to just all the different pieces of the system. On top of that, there was all different fare structures to the system. So a lot of people would just pay what they thought was the right fare, but they probably could have saved at least half of that very typically, because people getting on the bus didn't know that they qualified for a lot of discounts. And they didn't know where they were going either. I mean, and if you take the ride-free Longmont bus, you can actually get a transfer and transfer to the regional and pay a discounted fare. That's all going away, so that'll be nice. And then accessoride is $4.50 or $2.25, and that $2.25 only applies to low income. $4.50 is for everybody else. So that's the only discount that applies for accessoride.
And accessoride is essential, I'm sorry, is like a taxi, it comes to your door.
Yes, door-through-door service is that one. They actually help you. Oh no,
It's door to door.
door-to-door. Okay.
This is not really pertinent to this, but is RTD ever going to get the Denver bus from Longmont back?
We are working with them to try to get that back. We've heard rumors that yes, it's coming back, maybe in January. So.
Thank you.
And on their website, can I see all these options?
Yes. But what they'll do is they'll show you this fare structure right now. You kind of have to find what there's a new fare kind of link that takes you to all the things that have been discussed and what's coming in 2024. But they don't want to put that up front yet because it's not active.
So if someone wanted to go to Denver from Longmont, you could go online at RTD and they'd give you the options?
They would tell you how you can do it. You can also just type in kind of where you're going from and to, and they'll provide the bus options to go from point A to point B.
Or call if you don't have a computer.
Right.
Okay.
What's the goal here? Is the goal to have transportation available to anybody that needs it, including seniors, low income, disabled, that sort of thing? So
That's it. It's about Longmont taking control of the services that are local to us. We know about the local system, right? And we've turned it over to Denver, folks in Denver to run the buses. And what we keep on hearing is buses don't go where I want to go, when I want to go, and as often as I want to go. Mm-hmm. So to eliminate some of that pressure, we're looking at this microtransit to help solve.
So all this together, anybody that needs a ride should be able to get it easily
Within Longmont.
Longmont.
And then that should be able to take you to, one of your rides could be, I want to go to 8th and Kaufman, soon to be First and Main when in 2025, 26, when that facility hopefully opens. And that's going to be the centralized hub where all the buses, regional buses will interact with the local bus system. And right now that happens here in the
And what's the timeline on this?
For the microtransit?
Yes, I mean the whole package.
Well, the whole package is
A work in progress.
yeah, when we're talking about all the things that are connected here, and it's a great point that there's a bigger package to this whole thing, but microtransit, we really want to see get off the ground early next year.
Early next year?
As soon as we hear back from RTD, once we hear about our budget and the council hopefully sees what's in the budget and can approve those dollars to move forward, then we can start a contracting.
I understand it's a work in progress. It's like by next summer.
There's so many things that are that are happening with transit right now. So
Right.
it's just amazing. And so the next 3 years are going to be very intense as far as what happens in the city to facilitate transit.
Arlene just made a comment that our resource people should hear this presentation.
Yeah, so I'm gonna see where they're at, what
Yeah.
information they have, and see what we need to take back.
Good point.
And just to wrap up, I just wanted to make sure you heard from Angel today because she's got so much more information. So council did direct staff to pursue the microtransit in Longmont at their June council meeting. It was really to go after these partnership dollars, and they said, hey, go for the max. Go for the 600,000. That's really what we need to do and show that we're all into this program. So we really appreciated that. Council approved that we apply for that partnership program, which we did. We're currently in the queue. I told you that it's already kind of risen to the top out of all the programs in all of Metro Denver. Longmont's what, number 2 or 3, I think, on that list. And then we do want to bring back that idea that Ride Free Longmont might be past its prime with the whole idea that we're changing fares in January. So I should say RTD's changing fares in January. So as those fares change, we think that they're more equitable for Longmont. There used to be one price for the whole system, so you could ride from basically Lakewood to Aurora for the same price you could ride from our park right here to the rec center. So for us, it was like, hey, give us a discount. And they always give Longmont kind of a discount before, and then they said, well, we want to make it easier for everybody, so we're going to make everybody the same. And that's what killed our ridership at that time. And so we said, hey, to pull this back out of kind of this spiral downward that we had, we need to back these fares. So we're going to take another look at that. We're going to ask council to take another look at it. We've had some issues, quite frankly. I think, certain people are riding the bus and they're not going to any destination. There's a way to figure out the bus system to make it work. We say you can't ride all the way to the end. If you ride all the way to the end, the bus driver is forced to kind of kick you out, and then you're supposed to have a destination on the fixed route buses. But sometimes people have figured out how to cross over and get onto buses and basically take the bus all day long. And it's certainly a need that we need to consider, but I don't think the buses are the appropriate tool to accommodate those. So, and we're going to try to say that to council as well and ask them if that's true as well.
Well, I was going to say, isn't that one of the rationales for the free August fares, is to let people get out of the heat by riding a bus?
No, the rationale for that was really to reduce pollution, because this is our highest ozone season, is July and August. So the idea is, come take the bus for free, see how well it works during these high ozone times, get out of your car. But that was the fear.
Work.
Yeah, that's the fear. So we do have a downtown shuttle opportunity. We've been looking at ways to kind of get this microtransit to provide a shuttle in downtown. We think we can do this actually before the microtransit starts to take off. So LDDA is going to survey their businesses, give some incentives to employ to use and determine routes and stops. And this should help us kind of the construction of the new hotel in Kaufman, which is coming next year. And so get ready for fun construction cone zones downtown all year round.
Are you talking about that PT?
Yeah. That's going to take some parking. Kaufman's going to take some parking.
That's not, you
It's
said
on Kim
and
Bark,
Kaufman.
sorry, yeah. So the hotel on Kim Bark and 3rd, Kaufman Street, different blocks at different times of the year are going to be shut down to rebuild. And so I can talk to you more about that at a later meeting. But thank you for your time, and I'll let Angel speak a little bit about what Boulder County is doing to provide services.
Thank you. Here, stick around a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thanks, Phil.
Good job, Phil. So I'm going to pass my cards around. I did not create a presentation, but we work really closely with the City of Longmont Transportation staff. I'm the Mobility for All program manager, and Mobility for All is a bridge program between transportation planning and the human services. So we do a lot of different things, but primarily we focus on transportation access for people with all ages and abilities. So a lot of the questions that you all were asking were definitely piquing my interest. So our foundational document is the Mobility and Access for All Ages and Abilities Plan. So that's kind of where we get our direction. That was adopted last year by the Boulder County Commissioners, and that really provides us our policy document to know what funding to seek and which programs to invest in. So we do a bunch of different things, but one is we foster collaboration between the human services and transportation. So our primary mechanism for this is the Mobility and Access Coalition. So we host that monthly. It's a forum for nonprofits, for senior centers, it's for transportation planners, the providers, to come together. We listen to different presentations, but really we're looking at transportation from a human-centered lens. So we look for older adults, people with disabilities, youth, low-income households, and we really try to find out what the needs are. From that particular coalition, we've had a couple of projects that we've invested time in. One would be like the ride-free Lafayette system, which was in Lafayette, obviously, but it basically was a demand responsive system similar to what Phil's proposing here in Longmont, but also one would be Accessoride. So we've been working with RTD for quite a while to try to get certification to be easier for it's not necessarily easier to certify, but the process to be a little bit more transparent. So about 2 years ago, RTD put in their next call for projects the option of having multiple site locations for certification. And so right now we're exploring an option with the Center for People with Disabilities to see if we can bring RTD's Accessoride certification to Boulder County. In particular, we're looking at the Center for People with Disabilities location in Boulder. But if we can do proof of concept to say that it works, then perhaps we can explore other locations. And just, you were right, for Accessoride, it is a barrier. A lot of times it's a perceived barrier. People don't want to go to Denver to get certified. It used to be Lakewood that they had to go to. But RTD does pay for people to go. They have a vehicle, they set up the appointment, and they get a free trip to go to the certification center. And
but if you have a respirator and you get one battery from Medicaid, you can't do it from here because your battery runs out.
Yeah, and so we are working on that. There's certain regulations around, so Accessoride is a civil rights service, right? So it's regulated at the federal level with the Federal Transit Administration, and there's certain things that transit agencies have to do, and that's that 3/4 of a mile buffer around fixed route. But we do have a Transportation Options 101 presentation that we've given to different nonprofits, which I think, Ronnie, maybe we could schedule with staff here. And we don't just focus on the transit options, but we really do get into depth, like how to access all of them. One thing that we do also focus on with Mobility for All is education and outreach. So we actually work with the Senior Center to get workshops in the catalog. We weren't able to get any in the fall catalog because I think you all have some turnover of whoever's putting together the catalog. But we recently did a travel training, which is basically teaching people how to ride the bus. We did a Ben and Jerry's travel training. A bilingual group left here from the Senior Center and went to Boulder on the Bolt, and they got ice cream as part of it. So it was kind of a fun trip that we did earlier this summer. But we've also done the Mobility Options 101 training here at the Senior Center, how to use Uber, how to use Lyft. And a lot of those, we have volunteers who help us connect with older adults in the community. And a lot of our volunteers are older adults themselves or have people with disability, or they have disabilities themselves. So we really do work with the Senior Center and then also the City of Boulder, or City of Longmont, sorry, City of Longmont, all of the cities across Boulder County to try to make sure that people have access to services and education. As Phil was talking about the Sub-Regional Service Council for RTD, we are going to be deciding tomorrow what projects get funded. So I represent the Mobility and Access Coalition on that Sub-Regional Council. So I'm supposed to be voicing the opinion of people who are underserved, so older adults, people with disabilities, low-income households. And so I will be on that selection committee for the entire region, and we'll know probably by the end of the week. I don't know if they're going to announce it, but which projects get selected. As Phil was talking about, we are really collaborative in Boulder County, I think more so than other sub-regional areas. So we do keep each other in the loop on a lot of these things. I don't know if you have any, as far as Ride-Free Longmont goes, going away, we probably should talk about.
Well, absolutely, it's going to take a lot of discussion. It's not going to just happen.
Yeah.
Kind of see how the microtransit kind of takes hold, and if it's if it's successful.
Yeah.
We don't want to just. The council is pretty clear they don't want to get rid of it, but we do want to talk about it because some of those
cost less now.
Yes, it will cost less.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, and we definitely, so Mobility for All, we oversee some transportation supports for Boulder County Housing Authority as well. So there's the Spoke on Kaufman, and we provide some transportation programming there, like Earn a Bike workshops, and then also an EcoPass program where anybody who lives at a Boulder County Housing Authority site can get a free EcoPass. So there's lots of changes because we don't know how much our EcoPass contract is going to be next year either because of the changing fares. But on the whole, Phil presented the fares. It's great news, $27 for a month for an older adult, somebody with a disability or low income is just a huge win. And Mobility for All, we do try to incentivize people to sign up for the low income pass program. Another big win is for people with disabilities being able to get the low income pass on Accessoride, because that was not the case. If you got one discount, then that's all you got under the current fare structure, but in the future, that discount on Accessoride is gonna be huge for people with disabilities. But this is just kind of an overview. I don't know what questions you all have. I know that you were talking about various things with, I think I addressed most of the questions that came up when you all were talking.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So in the past, there also used to be a special discount card. Is that still a thing?
It is a thing. So the special discount card, that is for people who could qualify for the disability discount or the older adult discount. If you had another state ID that showed that you were over 65, you wouldn't need it, right? But if it was kind of ambiguous if you were over 65 or not and you didn't have a state ID, then you were encouraged to go to apply for a special discount card online. And that can be challenging. They
used to have someone come here.
Yeah.
Like years and years ago. So I didn't know if that was part of what you're talking about with Accessoride and the discount card, or if they're like separate.
Yeah, they're separate, but Mobility for All, we do have people who help people one-on-one, and we could help somebody like submit it online, right? And I think RTD, they've moved online for most of their applications for the special discount cards, which we know is a barrier for people. But we can help people. I don't know if this has access to the internet, but you could search maybe Boulder County mobility options online. But we do have a webpage. We're updating it right now, but it does have a list of all the mobility options in Boulder County, because it is a lot to navigate. We also have a button on that page where you can do a one-on-one meeting with a mobility specialist. We try to do those virtually, like maybe through Zoom or on a phone call first, and then if somebody needs a little bit more assistance, then we can meet them in the community potentially. Yeah, but it really does have, we are what's called a mobility management type of a program, which means it's human-centered, customer-centered, and it's really trying to find the best option for whoever, I'm not sure that one is. This one is the Mobility and Access for All Ages and Abilities Plan. If you want to go scroll down a little bit. Actually, scroll back up. I'm like doing it backwards and this one is Mobility for All. So this is, we're cleaning this up a little bit so it's a little bit less text. But down here we have mobility options by type, but we have it down here by city. So you can click on Longmont, and it's an accordion that talks about supports that we have for each of these modes of transportation and which options are available currently. And then we also have like some more like expensive routes, right? But you can click on each of these and it opens up the information up here. Still, maybe that didn't work. So it opens up to that mode of transportation that you just clicked on. So it is a little bit, I mean, it's overwhelming for some people, but if you click right here, book an appointment with the Mobility for All mobility specialist, we can set up a time, a 30-minute time to meet with people and help make sure that it's an individualized approach. We do have like an individual mobility plan that we can help somebody develop. And then also we partner with community centers and senior centers to like do training to help people learn how to like plan their own trips. Great.
I don't know whether this is an appropriate question, but I have my RTD card that I use on the bus. Will I have to reapply with the new fares, or do they automatically?
You had the special discount card?
Yes.
Yeah, you should be fine. Yeah, you should be able to keep it, yeah. And you'll just get a better price. They are pushing towards using the My Ride app, which is the phone-based app. And that's one of the reasons why we developed a workshop series on how to use apps, because a lot of the transit agencies are pushing towards that app base. So what's good about the new system, and then we can also do a workshop or talk to you all about how to set up My Ride. You have a card that you can get, it's linked to an app, but what's great about it is they do fare capping now. So their system is, like, if you pay that $1.50 when they institute the new fares in July or January, once they tap it, like $1.50, once you, if you're an older adult, once you hit that $27, you wouldn't have to pay anything after that, right? So it's good because a lot of, especially for low income folks, a lot of the barrier is it's hard to have that money up front to be able to pay for like a monthly pass where you get a cheaper discount, but that fare capping hopefully will be really good for everybody. You don't have to like do the math. It will just calculate when you've reached that monthly pass.
Maybe you covered this already for a second, but you know, this is really great stuff. I wasn't aware of hardly any of it. Most of the people around this table are probably pretty computer literate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that aren't,
Yeah.
and you know, you get over 80,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people, you know, like my father-in-law used to take
Yeah.
a computer and throw it across the room because he couldn't function.
Yeah.
With these things. So, is there an alternative?
There is. I mean, it's not necessarily an alternative, but we have a technology ambassador program. Let's see if this one comes up. So basically we have a group of volunteers who are themselves older adults or people with disabilities, and then we have 5 workshops that talk about how to use different apps, right? So the apps that we do trainings on are the transit app, which if you're using transit, that's a pretty user-friendly version. There's also the RT mobile ticketing app that we focus on, which is the My Ride. So if you want to purchase a bus pass, there's Uber, there's Lyft, and then there's Google Maps. So we teach people how to access those 5, and we can provide one-on-one support. We host workshops on how to access those apps if people have smartphones, but we have to acknowledge that a lot of people won't have a smartphone or that they can't use it. And so that's why we will hopefully be able to refer them to somebody who can have a phone, right? Like they can talk to on the phone. So yeah.
I'm just saying that needs to be an easy process.
Yeah, it is.
People get so frustrated.
Well, and what we found, because we've done a couple of pilots, we did a Lyft pilot at one of the housing authority sites in Lafayette, where we were giving anybody who was at the housing authority site $50 a month to use on Lyft. And there's a lot of resistance at first, but we trained 6 different ambassadors who were volunteers who got compensated with a few extra credits to use Lyft. And once people try it once or twice, like even like pretty limited tech savvy people can learn how to use it because it's pretty intuitive, right? They just open up the app and say, like, I want to go to this address and then click the button, right? So I think at that point we found that the financial payment was the biggest barrier, not necessarily the technology, but really it's getting people over that first hump to like start and like try something and get out of their bubble, because that's just really hard and intimidating. But yeah, so we do help teach people who have smartphones how to use other mobile options or how to access information.
Questions?
So I have a question about the vans. And did you say that there are 4 to 6 passenger vans for the?
That's the plan.
Okay. So tell me where the people access the ability to get on and off the van, and also where the wheelchair is going to go if you do a disability.
Yeah, each of the vans should be van accessible. That will be part of our contract that we write.
Is it back or side?
We don't know, because we don't know yet who the contract will be with. So I would imagine side. That's fairly typical for these kind of smaller vans, but we don't know yet.
So if I'm accessing it and I'm getting on, I'm assuming I'm getting on the side. So am I getting on in a van where I've actually got room to walk between the seats, or the front of the van and the seats, or is it so pushed together that you have a real hard time getting in?
Yeah, we don't know. I can't answer
So you don't
that.
have any ability to
well, we can program that into the contract terms.
Yeah.
If you have a preference, we could, we'll want to talk to people as we kind of move through this and find out what they want, what people want. And so those are great things to put together as far as putting together maybe a small task force if we know we're gonna get the money in 2024, let's put together a task force and start talking about what the needs are for people. So,
I would say that like there's a lot of transportation regulations of what meets accessibility standards, right? So, and it has a lot to do with the spacing of the seats. And when you're using public dollars, you have to meet those accessibility standards. If it's like a senior facility that's buying it with their own money, they don't necessarily have to have like spaced out seats with room for a wheelchair to maneuver. But for using any public dollars, you have to be able to have room for the wheelchair to be able to pull into the spot and be secured by the driver. And there's certain standards with like driver training and what they, like the level of assistance that they have to provide. And I know that we talked a little bit about door to door, door through door, right? So generally speaking, somebody like VIA, who is a nonprofit, they go above and beyond the ADA, the Americans with Disability Act, right? As far as like going through the door, right? They'll help people carry their groceries in, right? They go door through door to help people. They would help people put their coats on. That's not required by the ADA, right? The ADA it requires your base level to be curb to curb. And if you have a disability that prohibits you to get to the door, then you do a modification for a disability to go door to door. But the base level is going to be curb to curb for any transit service. And so for something like this, if there is a drop-off point, kind of like a modified fixed route where you have like a drop-off point that's on the corner, like you would write into your contract that they would have to take into consideration disabilities and they would go curb to curb for somebody with a disability or something like that. So you would just do one step above, like if for the general public, you're expecting people to walk from the intersection to their curb, then for people with disabilities, you would have that vehicle go to their curb, right? So it's just one step above. If it's a curb to curb for everybody, then for people with disabilities, you have to go to the door, right? So it's just, it's regulated a lot more closely than what I think.
So currently, right now, we work with VIA and provide shopping vans for the people at the housing authorities.
Yeah.
And the thing with the van, it's a bus.
Yeah.
The steps are not right, which I really think that they're not legal because they're probably at least about this tall.
Yeah.
Which is really hard for the people to get in. And then the minute you get up to the top, it immediately turns and there's another step.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how do you deal with that? Because it's got to be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure which bus it is, if it's a body on chassis or if it's like one of their MV ones or whatever. But the alternative is probably using the lift, right? So if somebody can't like get up and make that turn, then the driver is supposed to allow people, even if they don't have a wheelchair, to use the lift to get up to the level and do a straight boarding.
And they do that, but they can. The majority of them can do that. It's just that it's extremely awkward the way that it works. I ride that thing every time I go out shopping with them. So it's just, those are the kind of things that really kind of, after the fact, you can't do anything. So,
Yeah, and I think that it also has to do with like CDL licensing and like what level of vehicle, because those vehicles that you're talking about, they're on like a regular truck chassis and then they just put the bus on top of it. So really that base is a truck so that you don't have to have a CDL license. Anything bigger than that truck, you have to have a CDL license. So that's probably, and we can research this offline. I know that, I think we're out of time probably.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Actually, it wasn't.
Okay.
You know,
well, I'd be glad to come back and talk. I have the transportation
I was going to ask
101.
both of you if you'd consider coming back at a later time, because I'm sure we're going to have some more questions again.
Yeah.
More updates.
We're
We're gonna find out if we got the money.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
And then also, Ronnie, I mean, I know you're on our distribution list for the Mobility and Access Coalition, but like just all of you are open. You're welcome to join that discussion. It's open to the public. It's the second Monday of the month at 2 p.m. It's 2 to 3:30. And that's where we do a lot of these discussions around what priorities as a region we want to have.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate the invitation. And they asked for the presentation.
Yes,
and I
if
think
that's
you have
okay
that.
to share out.
Let me print it as a PDF so it looks a little better. You never know what you're gonna get, so I'll print that out for you and send it. Thank you.
Distribute it to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Phil.
All right, you must be from the city. City marketing. Come on over here. Thanks again.
Thanks. Nice to meet you all.
See you later.
Would you mind introducing yourself and where you're from, what you do?
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Becky Doyle. This is, I think, the first time I've been with this body. I'm the Director of Strategic Integration, which is, sounds very, right? So what we do is we help all the services across the city.
This is for the city.
This is for the city, yes. With the city of Longmont. So what we do is we help all the different services across the city incorporate some of our kind of overarching goals. So, using data, using GIS systems to make maps, incorporating sustainability concepts into their work. So a lot of those things are sort of overarching, but, sometimes folks need a little help to figure out how to bring those into our operations. So that's what we do. So I'm here because we've been working with Ronnie on a survey, and I think we need some help from you. So, Ronnie, do you want to say anything about that, or should I?
Yeah, no, well, what about the need or the?
Yeah, thank you.
So, well, I'll take a few steps back. So, the data we've been collecting since I've been here, working with the advisory board to identify many things, right? Our building needs, the rate in which we're programming, the community growth, a lot of these things. And so we've collected a lot of good data since I've been here, and it just keeps evolving. We keep finding some things, and I'm like, okay, well, let's start unpacking that. We get an answer to that. Well, let's look deeper and let's unpack that. Mm-hmm. And so where we're at right now is just taking a look at who we're serving for our programs, right? So the age groups. So we did 3 different age groups: 55 to 65, right? 55 to 65, 66 to 76, and then 86, right?
Right,
sorry, I can't count today.
And
so we just grouped them together just to see who is registering for our programs. And I meant to bring that data, and I did not bring it here today. So I can present this at our next board meeting, and I could even send it out before then, just so you have it. And the groups that we're really serving is that 66 and older group, right? So we're starting to look huge difference. I'm talking about, I think annually it was like that 66 to 76 group was like over 13,000 people registering for our programs. And then looking at the 55 to 65, it was like maybe like 1,300, something very, very small. So we just kind of want to explore that and start unpacking that as to, well, wondering why we're only getting such a minimal enrollment in our programs from this age group. Mm-hmm. And so that's our idea, right? That's the quick response. Mm-hmm. And so what we really want to do is start unpacking that. Is that one reason? Is another layer they're not ready to commit to being an older adult, right? Mm-hmm. Is it that the programs offered are not meeting their interests or their needs? So we just want to start unpacking that as to the whys. Mm-hmm. And so with that, we, working with Becky and our team, is to start generating a list of questions to unpack the why and administer a community survey, not just a senior center survey, but amongst the community as a whole. So last time we did our customer service survey was just directed to our senior center, in which we received, I can't even remember what to guess, but a lot, I think it was over, I don't know. We generated a lot of responses from both in-person and electronic submissions. And so now we're just looking at a greater level, again, surveying whole community, not just our senior center participants, not those 1,300 individuals for, you know, who participate in programs for the year, we want to survey the whole community.
Yeah, because it's definitely important to understand for folks who are coming into senior center, why are they coming, you know, what would they also be interested in seeing, and what are some of the barriers that we can help them overcome, you know, like transportation may be a barrier for some, as we were just learning. So those are some of the questions that we want to ask. But yeah, Ronnie's exactly right. We also need to figure out, for those who are not coming to the senior center, who aren't participating in programs, what are some of the reasons for that? And are those things that we...
You might have to start at the beginning with me, but how do you collect your information? What I'm getting at is, Ronnie was just talking about a lot of data that has been collected.
Yeah.
One problem, and I think everybody would acknowledge that, it's pretty much based on the existing population. You know, you ask the people who come in the doors, and the only information you get is from those people that are familiar with the senior center, right?
Yes.
So how do you go about collecting information, you know, to those elements of the community that aren't being served right now? How do you do that?
So what we're proposing is to use 3 collection methods for this survey. So one of which is you know, intercepts. So as folks come in the door, we ask them some of these questions about why are we here today. One would be an online survey, so anyone with, you know, the access to it could fill it out online. But because we know that there are, you know, varying levels of comfort with technology, we are also proposing to mail a survey with a paper return, or someone could fill it out online. So that's what we're looking for. As far as the information that we already have, Ronnie's done a really great work, you know, collecting information from registration for programs where program registration is required, and that's where we kind of noticed that anomaly as far as age group in attendance.
Well, I think I understand that. How do you ensure that you tapped into some element, some segments, for example? Again, the same ones we've been talking about. You know, the older, you know, the disabled or low income. How do you know you've got them represented?
So usually what we would do is we would ask a couple of those demographic questions. So we'll certainly ask about age brackets, since that's what we're most interested in. We do have a question about barriers, where people can self-identify as having, you know, mobility issues or other potential ability challenges that keep them from coming. We could ask other demographic questions, and then we compare that to census information and see if our responses and the distribution across those different you know, demographic characteristics like age, did we get kind of the same representation from that age group as we would expect in the population based on what we know from the census.
Is this an ongoing thing? Something that you'll do again next year, for example?
If we find it useful,
It could be.
right? It's a new thing. We could
Yeah,
try it.
right. Is that the plan? I mean,
I don't know.
I think we're just taking it one step at a time to where whatever information we collect brings up new questions as to like, oh, hey, let's start exploring that to see why this is the way it is. And so could it continue? Possibly, depending on where we want it to go and what information we collected and what answers we want to gain from that.
The city also has a practice of a biannual customer satisfaction survey, which is usually a mailed and online survey. And so what we might do is, if we find we want to track things over time, we might include some questions in that survey, just so we have that, because that really is a statistically validated, like everything is weighted to match those census parameters. So that might be something if we flag an issue that we know we want to see over time.
And you mentioned 55 to 65, 65 to 66, 76, but what about 76 to 87? You didn't really give us an idea on that one.
Yeah. Let me just pull it up real quick.
I'm curious as to what it compares to the 13,000 for the 66 to 76.
Was 13,000 the total?
Let's see, so
It was for the bracket of 66 to 76, yeah. And then 1,300 was a 55 to 65.
So we had 3 age groups, 55 to 65, 66 to 76, then 77 to 87. And the data collected from 2019 to 2023, so current at that time when I pulled this information, for the 77 to 87-year-old bracket, 13,554 participants registered for our programs. 66 to 76, 16,432 participants. And then the 55 to 65 age group, only 3,401 participants over that time.
That's different than the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, those aren't the same
Yeah,
numbers you
those
said
are not the
before.
same numbers.
So I was way up. Yeah, like I said, don't quote me on those. I was just going to top of my head.
It's a very striking bar.
But again,
Yeah.
it's just a big disparity, right? Big difference in
Right,
participation.
Right.
It's still low.
Yeah,
So
so-
then it's back to 65.
That's almost 30,000 participants from the 66 to 87-year-olds,
Mhm.
and then only again 3,401.
So
for
should
55 to 65.
should your third bracket be
70.
end up rather than 287? Because I'm pretty sure we don't absolutely top out there. We must
Oh.
have some people in their 90s.
We don't, but we did notice it tapering off, and so again, so we grouped those ages, yes, but after 87, they kind of started tapering off for different reasons, and we just wanted to capture those numbers, those three age groups. Can we go beyond that? Sure. But then again, data collection just keeps going and going and going. So.
And this data only comes from people who registered and gave us an accurate birthday in the system. So we have so many programs here that you don't register for at all, so it doesn't mean they're not coming, it's just something to catch up.
So how do you ensure that people are not taking more than one survey so that they pack a certain thing to go their way?
In this case, that would potentially occur, but again, since we're kind of comparing it against the expected population amounts, we're not overly concerned about it. If in the future we were to use one of the statistically validated surveys, they have, like one-time use, like specific codes, so that there aren't those duplications. This one's slightly less formal, just to help us get an idea of where to start. So that is a possibility. Okay. We could do some IP monitoring. It's a concern. Gosh, a lot of people are taking this out to senior center.
Any questions?
I think we may also be looking for some help.
Yeah, so volunteers. So for our in-house surveys. So kind of like we did with our customer service surveys, we're going to have the same approach of identifying busy time only for 1 week. So for 5 days, identifying the busy times out of each day, and trying to see if we pull together some volunteers to catch people coming out of classes to see if they would be willing to answer. And I think it's like an 8-question survey.
Put me on the list.
You can put me in the list too.
Perfect. And so I have Bianca working on that. So she said she's going to bring it here shortly to kind of identify those busy times for each day to see if anybody would be willing to sign up for those specific times. And whatever holes there are, I'll reach out to our volunteers to see if anybody can kind of help fill in those spaces as well. So.
Well, thanks so much for your interest and your help. And
So well,
Thank you.
I want
Thank
to
you for your information.
I do want to point out, like this group is very data driven, which I very much appreciate as well. And it helps tell our story, right? Identify what our needs are, how to best service our community, our customers, and how to better program, right? And Becky and her team has done a really good job kind of breaking all out of this information down and raising new questions and bringing new ideas to the table. Like, okay, well, what other sources of information or resources can we pull together to generate more data, more information? So it has done a great job, which I appreciate. It's helping drive this work, and again, a big focus of our board.
Actually, I didn't have to let you go. The question, what about heat mitigation? Are you going to, that's getting to be a real issue.
It is getting to be a real issue. So we've recently completed a heat mapping exercise where we had volunteers that Zach. Yep, Zach led that effort. So that information was collected a week and a half ago or so, a couple weeks ago, on a nice hot day at a few points in time in various locations throughout the city. So all of the data collected through that exercise is currently being analyzed, and then we'll go through an exercise where we'll talk to the community about, you know, what are you doing, you know, to mitigate heat. You know, what are some steps that the city can take? What are kind of those community solutions for addressing heat? I know this is a passionate topic of Marcia's as well. So that's absolutely something that we're looking at exploring and you know, funding in some different ways for the coming
You
years.
look like you're anxious to say something.
Oh, me?
Yeah,
Oh,
you.
no. I sit the Sustainability Advisory Board on suggestions for heat mitigation needs on the city, so they may be returning a report, you know, similar to the beneficial electrification report, only smaller. But no, I don't have any big things to say about that.
So yeah, we expect actual projects to probably be funded and to be occurring in 2025 and later. So we'll kind of figure out what's the plan, you know, through the next 6 months or so, and then include those things in the following budget.
The reason I asked if this was going to be an ongoing thing, like we could do it next year. One of the things I'd like to see is that we take as a group, as a board, we take various areas like transportation, for example, and as a board, come to some recommendations that we would give to the city council on things that we think are important that they should consider doing. And then along with that, some benchmarks.
Oh, yeah.
And then, but we don't have, as a board, we certainly don't have the resources to do that. And you have limited staff and what you could do. But so I'm just wondering if we, in our recommendations, we have some sort of goals or benchmarks. Could you then follow up on that to see how we're doing?
Absolutely. Yes, I think that's something that we can work together.
And actually, I can say that for almost any area.
Yeah, so we can talk about, you know, what we think are gonna be good indicators to follow, and, you know, we have a lot of information as a city. We know all kinds of things, and so, yeah, that's something we can put together and
How big a
track.
staff do you, how big an office is it?
Well, so the Office of Data and Analytics currently is 3 people. So there's that, but then, you know, we also have sustainability, and a lot of I think these things are gonna fall kind of in that sustainability realm. There's a lot of reporting that happens in that area. And then we have, you know, GIS staff, we're looking at the geographic components of it. So altogether, we're about 40, across, you know, all kinds of disciplines. So, yeah.
Impressive. Any other questions?
It was great
All right.
to meet you
Thank
all.
you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much.
I
We'll
look
have
forward
some-
to our partnership.
Yeah, we'll have you back.
Okay, great. Okay, I was like, I should sign up. Awesome.
All right. So I guess we covered that part. Let's go back to old business. Is that okay?
Yeah.
How about vacancy updates?
Let's jump in there. So we conducted interviews over the past couple weeks for our vacant recreation program coordinator and our recreation program supervisor positions. Very great. It was just very great pool. I'd say on average 20 applicants each ones. Various experiences, but we were able to pull out the most qualified individuals for interviews. And we made offers. So we made an offer for each position, and we have our recreation program coordinator starting next Monday. The 21st is next Monday, or no, not 21st, 14th. Let me see, sorry.
14.
You
Double
said
check.
the 21st.
21st, sorry, the 21st. Starting the 21st. And,
That's Rodriguez.
yes, that is Valerie Rodriguez, and she is coming to us with 18 years total experience, 15 specific years experience with City of Commerce, with Commerce City, and with senior programming, and 3 years on top of that for event planning for the City of Bryan. So she's got plenty of experience. She's excited to join our team, and you know, she's just very passionate about supporting our older adult community, and she's gonna be great. So excited to have her join our team. And then Amy Hodge will be joining us the week after, the 28th. And she's coming from the town of Eaton, and she has 10 years of experience in older adult programming and supervisor experience collectively. So excited to have her. She's very excited to join our team as well. And so those are filling the last 2 vacant positions we have on our team.
Good job.
So,
Yes,
It's
that'll be a
been-
nice help to you, huh?
right.
Get that going.
And
That's
so,
fast work in this job market.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It must be changing, maybe.
A little bit, I've heard.
right. And so, you know, what I'm excited for is not only did we get these positions filled, we got them filled with qualified people. We were just filling a hole, right? And I made that very clear that we were gonna be very intentional with our hiring process. As much as we want to get these positions filled immediately, we want the right person. And these 2 individuals, you know, from what we've seen, in the hiring team we've seen, they're just not only gonna be a great support and a great fit to our staff, each other, but for our community as well. So, again, being intentional with the hiring process of bringing those right people. And so we're excited to have them.
Sorry,
Yeah.
did you get any applications from within the senior centre or within the city?
Within the city, we did have interest, yes, yes. When we were able to kind of have discussions, I can say decisions were made, based off their own personal needs. So again, just through discussion, decided that, you know, may not be the best fit at this, their own personal needs, so. Yeah.
Does that give you a full staff right now?
Yes, that would give us a full team,
So you got this new maintenance person, I think you mentioned that last time.
and yes, last time,
Tommy
Gibson. Yeah.
Okay.
So, goes by Junior. Junior joined us during our closure, and this is his first full week here with us. Oh, it's only Wednesday, and it just another, again, intentional in our hiring process, finding the right people. And he's just, again, jumps right in and gets along with everybody, and it just feels like he's been here for a long time already.
Looks like a good fit,
Right.
huh?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, checking with him, again, how do you feel? Do you feel supported? Do you have what you need to be successful? And he's like, oh yeah, I love it here already. So that's what we want. That's what we want.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, did you say you would put in for a future position with the budget?
I did, yes.
Okay.
I made 2 requests, one for recreation programmers, coordinators, and that, you know, one of them would focus on Spanish programming. One of them was a request to partner with LHA to get residents off the property in here at the senior center, making connections, developing relations, engaging in our programs, utilizing our resources, and an additional request for, I can't remember how many hours at the top of my head, for part-time hours, so we can try and bring more staff in for facilitation of some of our programs.
So, do we have an LHA coordinator right now on staff? We do not.
So we had a LHA resource specialist who Brandy supervised.
Okay.
And that person left the city, so.
Okay, so that's it.
And what
Yeah,
was her name?
that was Valerie and Almanzar Garcia.
Okay, I remember, I think she came over to Village Place.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
It just didn't work out. We're very sad to see her leave, along with all of our other, teammates that we've lost.
Right.
Okay.
Who was that just left the room? Anybody know?
That was a patron, someone who wanted to sit in and be a part of,
Oh.
observe the meeting.
Oh,
So,
sorry, I didn't catch what he was.
he was just a patron, a citizen
Oh,
who just wanted to come
a
in.
member of the public.
Yeah,
I meant to ask him.
I'm
if he wanted
surprised
to
that-
speak.
Guess he didn't want to
He
be
did,
heard.
he
What's
was,
Oh, you did?
somebody asked him if she, at the beginning of the meeting. if he
Oh,
wanted to
okay,
speak.
and he didn't?
He
Oh,
didn't.
Okay, all right. Okay, good. Well,
And so-
okay, good job.
yeah.
Got that under control, fast.
Yeah.
That's
And,
good.
and so with that, we just,
Yeah, that could be.
we wanna set these two individuals up for success, so we're gonna evaluate our program as a whole. The radio and shore programming. So we want them to come in, they have to learn our city systems, our building systems, who their resources are, who their programmers are, who their, who all of these connections. So they not only have to learn all of those things, right, they have to learn day-to-day operations, what supports they need to be available for that, focus on future programming, learn each other, developing that chemistry with each other, learning our software systems, and so there's a lot to learn quickly. And so we wanna set them up for success too, and wanna create that overwhelming, that sense of overwhelming that we've heard about, right, since I've been here in these positions, so, we will keep Terry Calvin, who's jumped in and helped programming, in the departure of our last two positions. And she'll be an additional resource to help these individuals get acclimated. And Terry's willing to stay with us as long as we can keep her. So we just want to provide that area of support so they don't feel overwhelmed right out the gate and have that sense of work-life balance that we've been talking about for so long. And so we are going to evaluate programs. Again, going back to data, right? What programs are we providing that there's low enrollment? What about programs that we're losing money on? Things like that. And we're gonna make some cuts. We're gonna pull back a little bit on our programming right out the gate to allow them the space to learn all of these things, but not feel overwhelmed with the pressure of trying to program 167 programs like we have before in the
I'm
past.
sorry, how many?
167, 176. So again, so we just want to create that space for them to feel successful, and then we'll see what happens with these additional staffing requests. We'll see how quick it takes for them to get acclimated, and then we will build back up when we're ready to. So again, we just want to create that space for them to feel successful right out the gate, and we don't want to create a sense of overwhelm that we've heard.
Good strategy.
I understand that nobody wants any of the programs cut.
Yeah.
But if they're low enrollment and they're losing money, and we're in a position right now where we really have to look at that, then it's not to say they're gonna be cut for good. And sometimes what happens is you cut a program and all of a sudden everybody shows interest in it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I guess we just needed to let them know we're taking it away for them to say, oh wait, we wanna keep it.
Yeah.
But I do understand exactly what you're talking about and trying to trim things so that, everybody's the new people are only learning what's well attended and I don't wanna make it sound like that, but the new people are learning the programs that are the most attended and then on down the line,
Right.
learning them all. But yeah, I understand what you mean.
And it allows us, I know 167 programs sounds fantastic, and that's what separates us from a lot of our I don't want to say, our community, the surrounding communities, right?
Mm-hmm. Our peers.
Right. And I don't want to say competitors, but,
Right.
right? And that feels great, and it sounds great, and it is great, right? But it allows us to step back right now and focus on quality versus quantity.
Yeah.
And the quantity will increase once these individuals become acclimated, and we see what if we get any additional staffing requests approved, then we'll get that done.
Or you can also make people have to show interest, you know, and say that they're willing to attend something if it's been taken away. I really think that's gonna be the case.
And so to communicate that out, I mean, I think we've seen our bill cover. We have not, I'll make sure we'll grab it on the way out, sharing that again, we are under staff overhaul, and we just need our community use patients at this time. And I've had so many conversations with a lot of our patrons who've had questions. They've called, talked to people on the phone, they've come and knocked on the door and made appointments, and providing clarity of what our plan is. The concern is, oh, we're not gonna have programs. Right. No, we're gonna have programs, but this is what it's gonna look like. And, walking them through that fully understood, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. The work we've done with this board, with our friends board, same thing. And I have a meeting with our trip leads, who are also very passionate about our programs, right? Next Monday to kind of share this information. I've talked with a handful of them, but being able to talk to all of them collectively as a whole, this is what the plan is, and this is what it's going to look like to put their mind at ease a little bit. So those who I have talked with of our trip leads, again, are like, oh, yeah, this makes sense. This helps set them up for success and gets us moving away from that sense of feeling overwhelmed that's been in these positions historically. So everybody's on board with that, and we're just continuing to get that message out. And so with this group specifically, they're great advocates in our community. They work with a lot of different groups, and they'll be able to help echo this message out to those who are not aware. So,
What are trip leads?
so that they help facilitate our trips, so they go on the trips. And,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Well, I think I speak for everybody, and I think you have the support of the board as far as the direction you're going, support the staff, and maybe make it easier for them to succeed, and part of that is probably reprioritizing some of the things that are done in the senior center. You want to provide programs, but maybe it can't be the same as it was before. Do I speak for everybody?
Yes.
Change is
Well, I
hard
think-
for a lot of people, but
It is.
change is inevitable.
It
I think
is.
that's,
Exactly.
I think that's
There's
the
a real
reason.
struggle there, and yet it is inevitable,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
And I think too, I'm sorry, I
No, go ahead,
interrupted.
go ahead.
I think too that, what did I say, just thinking?
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
I had,
I thought
you
I
go
was
ahead and
gonna
I'll
do that.
come back with it again.
Well, I'll say that I felt nothing but that support from this group since day one, and I really appreciate that. And then, again, the conversations we have, the feedback and direction and suggestions that's been provided from this board has helped guide not only this work, but again, this goal that we have for our team. And so that
We got more.
Yeah.
We more.
I think too, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
Mm-mm, she just laughed.
I think too that when you have programs that go year after year, you just keep them.
Yeah.
They just
Yeah,
stay on
right.
the schedule.
Mhm.
And then when you need to shake it up a little, when something happens and you need to say, wait a second, are these working?
Mhm.
Are these being attended? Are they even of interest? Then you have to go through that process. And it scares some people and they want to say no because leave everything the way it is, it's fine. But, like Jean, with the woman who recently resigned, Janine, when she said we used to be known for really having great services. And because of a lot of situations beyond our control, that is no longer the case. But that doesn't mean we can do it again. We can find out what really does work.
In a little bit different direction too.
Yeah,
And is
You
that
know,
really
switch
true
it up a
that
little
we
bit.
don't have great services?
right, it may just look that way.
It might be just based on the past.
And it may be kind of heavy with services that, you know, but very good ones also, you know, and very needed ones also. But because there are so many, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle, the important ones, or the priority of what's important.
I was just gonna say, Arlene, I think you know something about that. How long did you work for AG?
About 25 years.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize
She's
that.
a resident expert.
I don't know about expert.
Well, there you are.
Okay.
You know, honestly, just to wrap that topic up, I would not say that Longmont has lost its reputation area-wide as having a fabulous senior center. I still hear from people who say, we moved to Longmont for retirement partly because
Yes.
of the senior center. So I think it's more accurate to say, when the resignations happened, a bunch of people panicked and we got some local negative publicity.
And I think of what we offer, and there's classes, but I think the most important thing we offer is the resources. The resources. I mean, finding out about resources.
Right.
That's the key
Having a
for
place to
success
come
for
to.
seniors.
You know, having one place to come to.
And have an answer for your questions.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to that. Under vacancies, this isn't exactly the right spot, but we do have a vacancy where we have an opportunity to have another liaison person to the Boulder County Area Aging Agency. I got that out. I don't know, are you interested in that, Lonnie, or?
I had a good suggestion from Arlene. She said to talk to Janine and kind of get an idea of what it's about. I don't want to jump in and take on things and then not know what to do with it.
Sure.
But, so I would prefer talking to her first.
Yeah.
And I certainly don't want to jump in front of anybody else and be the one taking on all these responsibilities and stuff. But if it comes down to it, I'm going to speak to Janine. I'm going to find out more information about what exactly it entails. And then I can let you know at the next meeting.
That's too late.
Oh.
Isn't the deadline for the 13th?
What's
For
today?
an application.
Ooh. Maybe I can get her on the phone then? Do you think that would be appropriate to have a phone conversation with her?
I can tell you a little bit about what it is, what it entails. It is, they meet once a month, and it's about 2.5 hours. It's the first Friday of every month.
Okay.
And they do meet at different locations through Boulder County. So, for instance, last Friday, we met in Netherland. Now, if you don't have transportation, they do provide transportation through VIA. But after that, it's up to you how much more you want to get involved.
And didn't you say they also offer Zoom?
Yes, they offer Zoom.
Okay.
So you don't
Yeah,
have
all
to
the
attend in
meetings, yeah.
person, that's
Are
important.
most of the
Yeah.
meetings Zoom?
No, they're both now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's both.
They're
So,
hybrid.
Yeah.
So it's Boulder County.
Boulder County Area Agency
Boulder
on
County.
Aging.
Okay.
Yeah.
Boulder County Area Agency on Aging.
Yeah, and until you get somebody, I can, at least say a few things, but,
Well-
I think I'm happy enough to go ahead and apply.
I think it'd be
Put in
wonderful.
It is the 13th of July.
And I don't want to pressure you, but can you, hurry up.
Right. But we're running out of time here.
No.
Yeah, I think I'd be happy to do that.
I think
And get involved.
Actually, I've thought about it myself. I thought it would be a really interesting group to work with.
Right.
But, I got enough stuff, so.
And
If
this
you're
is
willing to do
outside
that.
of Longmont, this is
Yeah.
Boulder County, so we're gonna be hearing a lot of information we may not hear, more expansive.
It is, and it's been great conversations, great
Okay,
information,
so
great networking.
you need to submit an application, is that right, Ronnie?
So, yeah.
Okay, and then is that going to be an issue, or is she just going to be appointed, or is she?
okay, so the way that it works is probably similar to what you guys do, with any of the councils, is that the applications will be turned into the Boulder County Area Agency on Aging, and then at that point, people will be called and given over the phone interview.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the information will go back to them as, these are the people that should, you know, we think need to be selected, or that you need to approach, or whatever, so yeah.
Okay.
And will they be selecting one or more than one?
I believe there are 5 vacancies right now. Mhm. But one, of course, is Longmont, the representative from Longmont, and there's several from at-large, and then there are some from the mountain areas as well.
Now Janine is like at large.
Janine is the representative from Longmont.
Oh.
She was, yes.
What is she now? Oh, well, she has applied, she's not on the board.
She's going to apply for an at-large
Okay,
position.
you are on at large.
I'm an at-large.
Okay, are you co-chair?
Yes,
Okay, you're co-chair of the group, okay.
right.
Oh, all right. Well, you will,
If
I
you
guess you
think I
just get
could
on.
do well, if you think that would be something that,
And, you know, they don't go around at the meetings and ask everybody to say something. They have it pretty well pre-packed with what's going on and information that's available.
okay,
And so, yeah, it takes up the 2.5 hours pretty close.
And you said there were 22 board members.
Yeah, there's 22 positions.
So we can see how they apply.
perfect,
That's what she says.
okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
You can take it from here then?
yeah, I will.
Okay, very good. Good. All right. Guidelines for the annual report. Here's the plan. Okay, and I don't, I want some reaction to this, because this is just my thinking, and if you don't agree, I want you to say something. And I'm gonna articulate as best I can. Last time we talked about, each area, each important area, a board member take responsibility for, with the objective of, when we get to our annual report, it would include recommendations in that specific area to the city council. I had a question, by the way. Harold, for example, who does he take his orders from? Does he take orders
Well,
from the city council, or a person on the city council? And then the department heads, like Pacheco, who does she report to directly? To the city manager?
yes, well, the department heads, the top level reports directly to the city manager or the city attorney. The city attorney has a number of direct reports, and I don't think they have they're not big enough to have a management hierarchy. So there's the city attorney, there is the city manager. The city manager takes direction from the city council and is responsible for carrying it out in terms of policy. But he is the ultimate authority in terms of operation, meaning which streets get
Right.
paved first and stuff like that. Now, obviously, he can't micromanage a staff
Sure,
this
of
size,
course.
so his
Yeah.
directors really do most of that. His personal policy is that the council has reasonable access. I think they're told to expect half an hour to an hour a week each from each city council member. So, you know, that's a lot of hours if we really
Yeah.
used all of it. But he doesn't restrict access to the senior staff very hard. But he's the ultimate authority on all operations, and we, the city council collectively, are the ultimate authority on all policy. And individual city councils have council members have no authority whatsoever, just influence. So that's kind of the way it works.
Yeah. Okay, so if, one of the things I'd like to see when we make our recommendations, our report next summer,
Mhm.
Before budget, all that is.
Spring, then,
I'm sorry,
spring
spring,
before budget, because,
yeah, I said May last time.
yeah.
Okay, let's say by next May. We make our recommendations after a great deal of thought. And the letter goes to the city council. And let's say that the recommendations are so good that you want to adopt two or three of them. Okay, and then what do? You direct Harold to say, okay, we think these are good recommendations, and we'd like you to implement these recommendations through the the staff, you know, like the human service.
Yeah, normally when a presentation like this happens, the staff would, or the council would, accept the report if they don't have any, find fault with it. They might ask you to go back and tell us more, we can do that. Then we would typically direct staff to come back and bring recommendations on how it should be implemented. The reason
to staff.
Right, and
Okay.
the reason is because if we don't do it that way, we romp and stomp all over the structure of
That
the
makes sense,
organization.
yeah.
So usually it's a two-step process that way, and then sometime later, there would be operational recommendations. I think an example would be, opening up the youth center and sharing some of that facilities, with, giving senior events access to some being held over there. Was the last time I could remember this organization resulting in a recommendation by council that was implemented. Maybe another one would be the transportation services between the LHA properties and the senior center. So that kind of thing, again, it's the council says, yeah, this is an important thing, let's do something about that. And then it comes back as a plan.
Okay.
That the council approves.
Okay, so as a board, that's where I see us going. Folks okay with that?
Recommendations.
Either that, if we don't do that, we're just cheerleaders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good process.
Right.
It's a good plan.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
It's tough work.
Although I would also say that policy resolutions are an important part of that process. Because if we write a resolution, saying that we're a clearinghouse, which we essentially are, a no wrong door policy that says anybody can always call the senior center, and we don't let go of them until they get an answer or get attached to the right service, which we may be understaffed for, but that could be a policy resolution that would then stay in effect and automatically inform budget decisions and so on. So that's another way of getting things into effect.
Okay, I think we've got our work cut out for us. Okay, let me go on. I just wanted to clarify that, and for everybody, so they kind of understand. I want to make sure everybody's on board. We're going kind of the same direction here. But what I see is that last time we talked about who would take responsibility for housing, and it was Lonnie and Sheila. The two of you said that you take responsibility. I'm going to ask the same thing for transportation here. So what I'd hope for by next May, before that, would have to be before May actually, is that we put into our report, I'm using the report as a vehicle, right, to the city council. Something like we would describe the activity, define the activity. This is what the senior center does as far as transportation is concerned. Now, that's what I was asking about your staff. What protections do you have? Do you have a specific staff, for example? I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I'm just asking the question. So you kind of define the activity, list the activity, whatever, and then you go through maybe staffing and budgeting. I don't know, that's kind of tricky, but staffing and budgeting recommendations, some benchmarks that can be followed as far as what we think would be important movement in the area of transportation or housing or whatever it would be. We are not experts in any of these areas. So what we're talking about seems to me are general kinds of benchmarks but still measurable. That's all I was asking Becky, if that's the sort of thing that could be done in subsequent years, that kind of thing, so we get kind of a handle on this. Incidentally, we don't want to work at cross purposes with you at all. We're here to support you. And then finally, maybe a policy recommendation, those kinds of things, but you get the idea. So I'm talking about something that's going to take some work, think it through. What do you think we need in terms of, staff, budget, policy, and the hard part, benchmarks. That sort of thing. That's really the tough part. But if we don't do something like that, we're just spitting in the wind, in my opinion. We really are. So we've got to take a stab at it. So that's kind of my idea, and we do that for only a certain number of areas. I'm thinking we've already talked about recruitment, not recruitment, but outreach, housing, transportation, and maybe a couple of other areas, but we only have so much time to do it, some of this in a year. Yeah.
Go ahead. May I suggest
Sure.
severe weather response?
Oh, yeah.
So heat
Yeah.
ambassadors,
Yes.
people stuck in a mobile home, help facilitating transit to a cooling center. Can the senior center be a cooling center?
Or even a heat center.
A cooling, a heat
Yeah.
center in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
But I suspect we're likely to, we
are.
have no idea what to
We
expect.
are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Weather has become just
Right.
Yeah.
so.
So maybe part of that is making sure that the board, if we're gonna make recommendations like that, know what's already there. Cause I didn't know that you're a heating center
And
or
a
a
cooling
cooling, and a
center.
cooling center. And how well publicized is that? So is part of our recommendation that this city publicized cooling centers better, cause it doesn't.
Right.
I think that I agree. I think that definitely should be one of the areas we talk about.
That almost could come under transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can work on transportation. I will help
Okay,
with
good,
transportation.
excellent. That was your focus at Salt Lake County, was it not?
One of them.
Good. Yeah, I told you, she's an expert. All right, that's
And
good.
also, when the Marshall Fire, after the Marshall Fire, this was a information center. And that was very useful.
Yeah,
And the actual
Yes.
center at Lafayette was actually a center for the people to come to.
does anybody want to work with Arlene on transportation?
I do take a shower occasionally.
Anybody? Well, for the moment.
Okay, look,
Well, okay,
right,
for the moment, I know you're more than capable of doing it yourself, but it would be good to just,
Well, it's nice to have just more than one
it's
person.
nice to have
Yeah.
another person.
I will lend a hand.
You will lend a hand on this.
Now, Marcia, let me ask you this, on, the open meeting laws, it would be good probably to meet with you periodically, maybe between now and then.
Okay, so I can meet with board members freely because we're not a member of the same body. Okay, but so the limitation is me and 2 or 1 members of the advisory board can meet. So we could have 3-person meetings. So what you want is to have subcommittees of 2 on each of these, which means that they can meet with each other freely and the pair can meet with each other.
Well, but then I couldn't meet with you, so I would.
You can meet with me individually as the chairperson.
Right.
And I can discuss what the board says, or the boards can report their progress to the entire board, and all of that is compliant.
Right, okay, but you can only have 2 people with you, right?
From the same board, yes.
Yes, so, okay, so that means in Arlene's case, I could go with Arlene, because there would only be 2 people. As far as, housing is concerned, you and the 2 of you would go, unless one of you didn't, and I wanna get in on it.
Yeah, but you
Can't do everything.
you don't get to micromanage the committees
Yeah.
here, David.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll work that out, but, that's the idea. I think, I see a lot of communication among ourselves and with the council actually before we get there through, Marcia. And, so that's gonna take a little time, a little work, but I think it's really gonna be quite challenging. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking. That's where we go.
Can we see about filling outreach and severe weather?
Does somebody, well, let's see, we haven't talked about that yet, but,
Yeah,
what
but
do you mean?
If you put severe weather under transportation, then that would be,
Oh, and that would be,
Yeah,
we
that
wanna
would
take.
take,
Yeah, although that's a lot of responsibility.
It is,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
yeah.
Well, I think David hasn't got a responsibility.
Well, David and Art, we can volunteer Art, who's not here, that's always good.
That's what he gets.
Yeah, that's
Or he
what it
doesn't
gets
show
for not
up,
being
yeah.
here.
Well,
And,
And you're not gonna be able to fill positions until closer to the end of the year, right?
That's right.
From the
oh, you're done
outside,
with
I mean.
positions,
Oh, yeah.
right?
No, the position's on the board, is that what you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah,
is that like a
Because it
November
opens up like about
application
October.
or?
it opens up in October. And how many, do we have 2 or 1 open
Three.
seats?
Three.
Ooh, no wonder we can't fill committees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I know at least one person who has sworn that he's gonna get through the application process this time.
Do we have people that could attend on a ad hoc basis or something like that? Is it possible? No?
No.
Okay.
You gotta
I
scale
just
your
don't know what
ambitions
they're
to your
about.
manpower.
Yeah, and I just don't know what like outreach really is
Well-
about.
You mean, outreach.
Well, I think
Well, I
Art
think-
would be good at that.
Art
Yeah.
is going on he's sitting there.
Okay.
Art is going on the outreach.
Okay.
Whether he knows it or not. Anybody want to serve as part of the outreach committee?
Well, yeah, and remember, it only has to be recommendations because the city has an outreach staff.
That's true, yeah.
So, you know, if this body recommends that we do outreach on this subject and target it this way based on what we know about our community, then that should be enough for them to go on, and they can develop the brand and the message in Spanish, you know, and all of that stuff. And they don't have to, and it's not our charter to do stuff end to end, it's
Right.
just push.
Yeah. Now, all we wanna do is come up with what we think are good directions, you know, and we can't deal with the details, not experts. Okay, well,
I
that's
can
good.
help Art with that.
I'm sorry?
I can talk to Art about that and help him with that,
Okay.
you know, and just see
He'll-
what he
yeah.
is
He'll be-
thinking.
I'll be glad to know you're on the committee with him.
Yeah,
All right, what time have we got?
It's time for reports, quick.
Uh,
I have one, so.
Okay, I have one other item to cover after your report.
Okay, you cover it, well, we should do the manager's report first.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, the way I had it set up, we kind of talked about it in the past, is everyone had a chance to review it, and we're just gonna hit on questions. Does anyone have any questions on the manager's report?
That was good.
Yeah, you covered most of it all.
Can I say on the reports, the idea was, well, because we don't have enough time every time to give us the report, is to
Send them.
send them. Well, I get Ronnie's, and I know I send friends when there is a meeting, but I've never got anything from any of the other
This month?
no, ever. I've never got a sustainability, area agency on aging report. Sorry.
Yeah,
Some liaison.
Yeah, well, in this case, you can't have mine because I would have had to stay up until 2 a.m. to send it
Well,
out to
that's
you.
what I thought.
Well, this last month, there was no Friends meeting, I don't believe. I didn't have a meeting.
Yes, there was a meeting, but it wasn't a.
It wasn't
full-
open to you.
It wasn't a regular meeting.
Just outside people, yeah.
But I've never got 1, 2, 3, 4,
Well, we'll fix,
5 reports.
we'll fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the past few months, aside from this one, I didn't get any reports from anybody. I attached them in my initial email with the agenda, manager's report, and anybody else's. And so that way everyone can kind of review in advance. But
So if you don't send it, you don't have it. You know, you didn't get it.
yeah,
I mean, it's supposed to be, instead of sitting here talking about it.
It's,
right.
It doesn't
And
work.
that opportunity to open it up, if everyone had a chance to review the manager's report, do we have any questions? If there are just questions about that.
That's the problem, we never got a chance to talk about them. I've had questions on them before and we never get to it. Oh, Marcia, go ahead.
Yeah, well, so the big deal, it was a mundane council meeting last night, you know, nobody raised a fuss in public, invited to be heard or anything. But, but we did refer 3 questions on public amenities to the ballot. They are.
Front page this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, and well, I never get up early on Wednesdays.
Yeah, top of the page, top of the page.
Yeah, so, yeah, well, I'll take a look, that's good good intelligence. What they did, the Center for Arts and Entertainment is referred, that one has no new taxes for 2024 or 2025, unless, you know, because the Alliance, the capital campaign has to raise $35 million before the taxes can start. So that's pretty far in the future. And it also, no sales taxes start until the center is 6 months complete for completion because the sales tax operates the thing. So that's referred, and it is it's the property taxes that would handle a $40,000 bond issue. It's not going to be done as a bond issue, but it's still that much property taxes. The library branch and upscale service scale was referred to the ballot independently of whether there is a new rec center or not. So they'll have some latitude if there's not, if the rec center doesn't pass, they'll have some latitude about doing it in a storefront or something like that. And you may get a bigger or smaller branch, but you'll get a branch, you know, if it passes, then there will be a branch library somewhere in Longmont. And then the last one, which was the only one that there was any significant debate, was the recreation center. And what the council decided to do, with me as a semi-dissenting voice, was they smushed the YMCA proposal and the Dry Creek proposal together into one ballot question that's gonna be $70,000 roughly, or I mean million. $70,000, sure, no brainer.
Yeah.
But, so, it's a big dollar question. If it passes, we get new rec in the, north side and new rec on the west side. I have deep reservations about it because it's such a big ticket item, but everybody else on the council thought that it would be more likely to pass if it had something for everyone.
So, sorry, does that include the Lashley exchange?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the land swap with the Y, which means 2 things. Okay, people will be able to use the Y pool instead of Centennial when Centennial Pool is under demolition, and then the city gets the land once the new Y is built. So I love that one, and I wanted it to be by itself on the ballot because I'm not that enthusiastic about the Dry Creek Center. I think it's a luxury and we could do it in a couple of years. Right. But that's not the way it went.
And that wasn't clear from the reporting.
It just doesn't even make sense to me.
Yeah, you're just making it almost impossible, you're making it very difficult to pass.
Yeah.
Well, it's and frankly, I'm a big supporter of the Center for Arts and Entertainment, and I think it reduces its ability to pass.
Right.
Because if somebody really is into sports, they will vote no on the Center for Arts and Entertainment because of sticker shock. So I don't like the way it came out, frankly, but everybody else on council really pretty much spoke with one voice, so I did not cast a dissenting vote. Because
And the thing about the arts and entertainment center is you're going to get income from outside Longmont.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
It's,
right, and the taxes,
center.
yeah, the taxes are far in the future too.
Yeah.
But I think coming from a homeowner standpoint, when I listened to everything and thought it through, when you take a look at this particular thing is gonna be this much mill added, this is gonna be this much mill added, on top of the additional sales taxes that is added, not to even think about the assessments that came through that were absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know that first off, I'm not gonna vote for all of those because of the mills
Mhm.
and
No,
the
I
sales
added up
tax.
the cost and the way they described it in the paper was over $200 increase in property tax for a $500,000 home.
Yeah.
That's tough.
That is,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to tell you guys, I emphasize that message over and over
Right,
again
right.
in public. I heard it from the optimists who are pretty much over 75, the whole organization, and I feel like the people who are making the decisions have either never been constrained financially or never been old.
some of them haven't been old.
Right, well, it's that, yeah.
It's
I
tough, and when they see the no votes come in,
Yeah.
they're gonna say, we spent so much time and so much energy, and we got nothing.
I'm afraid so.
I think that's the handwriting on the wall.
Yeah, and I hated to see that thing combined because, it was,
Right, and especially since, I think everybody, a lot of people hate the Bry idea because it's just not all city, A lot of the public hates it. I have a lot of emails.
Really?
What's the basis for that?
They said, well, we don't trust Novi, we want it to be the city, we want it to be our recreation center that we know and love.
Change.
Right. Yeah.
I've been around for a long time.
Longer than Longmont.
Yeah.
Longer than Longmont as a city
Well-
that had amenities and institutions.
Yes.
Exactly.
All right,
Far
well, it's 12 o'clock.
Yeah,
No,
sorry.
that-
No, that's all right.
Thank you.
I actually am trying to end this on time this time.
Failed.
I did, yes.
Okay, the
Oh,
red button is ready.
At the next meeting, I was thinking of this on the agenda. Maybe we should get support services here, or maybe the resource specialists, and talk about, we've talked about a lot of stuff. Maybe we should talk about, have some of your staff, or maybe you wanna do it, how we're involved, how the senior center is involved in each of these areas, because I don't have a good handle on it, and I expect most of you don't. Maybe just talk about that stuff for most of the meeting. And then the area reports, like sustainability, the area that I follow. I haven't really talked about it, for a long time. There are some things I'd like to say, and it goes right in with the heat mitigation, that's what they're doing right now. So I was thinking maybe this next meeting, we just kind of step back a little bit and talk about some of the stuff that we've been talking about the first few meetings.
I have an illustration of the way the city prioritizes activities as a whole
Yep.
that I will send to you that you can use to organize the discussion,
Oh,
if you would like.
okay, all right.
I
All right,
have to
is there-
leave, I have
okay,
to be in
Arlene.
Lafayette at 12:30.
Okay, all right.
Like-
good.
I just want to say one thing about the last meeting, the Area Agency on Aging, which I thought was something to think about. We had a person that is with the Area Agency on Aging in Washington DC, who of course is, really well acquainted with what's going on back there. And she said that one of the things that they are looking at that has been brought up is why does every meal that a senior takes or wants have to be at the senior center? Because some of your younger seniors are saying, why can't we go to Panera? and meet there, and then have it be the senior center meal that particular time or something, just different locations for it. And I thought that was something kind of interesting to think about. I don't know, how that's gonna work nationwide, but, it's just something different to think about. Would that be something that would bring in younger seniors if we had, say, a table at Panera or a picnic table somewhere or something like that? I thought that was interesting that came up.
That is.
Have it from
And they may be,
12 o'clock.
And I threw Panera out because I didn't know what else to say.
Yeah.
and they may be more mobile, younger seniors.
Right.
They can go and meet at a place and doesn't have to be where they get dropped off or come to the senior center.
Mhm. And it could be maybe addition too, and still have people come in here that are used to coming here, but maybe have this little option of, or go to a salad place or I don't know.
Oh.
Soup,
Yes.
Okay, Sheila? Yeah, is there a second?
second.
All right, moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion adjourned.
You're opposed to run the meeting.